Before we begin, I want you to think about something very simple. Right now, aging is happening inside your body, not as an idea, not as a concept, but as a silent process that never pauses. Every second, cells are dividing, repairing, breaking, and rebuilding. And for most of human history, that was the end of the story. You age, you grow old, you die. No debate, no alternative, no escape. But today something has changed. Not in your imagination, but in real laboratories, in scientific research and in billion-dollar industries quietly working on one of the most ambitious goals in human history, to slow down aging, to understand it and maybe to control it. And that brings us to a question most people don't stop to ask. What if aging is not as fixed as we were taught to believe? What if it is something we can influence, extend, or even reshape entirely? Because if that is true, then we are no longer just talking about medicine. We are talking about the future of human existence itself. And in this video, we are going to explore exactly that, calmly, deeply, and step by step, what science is discovering, what industries are building, and what this means for all of us. But before we dive in, if you're into deep cinematic storytelling like this, where we break down reality, psychology, and human system in a way that actually makes you think, make sure to like this video, subscribe to HistoFy, and turn on notifications. Because this is just the beginning of stories that question everything you think is normal. Now, let's begin. What if aging is not something that simply happens to us, but something that can be studied, slowed down, and maybe even stopped? For most of human history, this question didn't even exist. People didn't debate aging, they didn't research it, they didn't try to fix it. You were born, you lived, you aged, and then life ended. That was the structure of everything. But something strange is happening now. For the first time in human history, aging is no longer just accepted. It is being challenged. And quietly, almost without people noticing, humanity has started doing something extraordinary. We are no longer just trying to live better, we're trying to outlive time itself. And the deeper question is not whether this is possible, but whether we were ever meant to try. There was a time when growing old carried meaning, not resistance. Age was not a flaw in the system. It was the system. Wisdom was tied to years. Respect was tied to survival. And decline was simply part of the cycle of life. Nobody questioned it because nobody imagined an alternative. But modern life has quietly rewritten that relationship. Medicine extended survival, technology reduced risk, nutrition improved strength, and suddenly, aging didn't feel like a natural journey anymore. It started to feel like a biological limitation. Something to be managed, something to delay, something to control. And once that shift began, the question changed forever. Aging stopped being destiny and started becoming a problem. At some point, scientists stopped treating aging as a fixed rule of biology and started treating it like a process with mechanisms. Cells divide, repair, break down, and accumulate damage. DNA carries errors, metabolism slows, systems weaken over time. But here's where things changed. If aging is a process, then it might not be permanent. The idea didn't arrive loudly. It didn't come with a single breakthrough moment. It came slowly through research papers, experiments on cells, studies on regeneration, and discoveries that suggested the body might not be as fixed as once believed. Some researchers began asking uncomfortable questions. Why do we age at all? Is it necessary? Or is it just a side effect of how biology works? And once that question entered science, there was no way to ignore it. Because if aging is not inevitable, then it becomes something that can be changed. Today, the fight against aging doesn't look like a dramatic scientific battle. It looks quiet, personal, almost invisible. It looks like someone checking their sleep score before getting out of bed. It looks like tracking heart rate during a walk that used to be effortless. It looks like measuring food, nutrients, recovery, stress, and even breathing patterns. Life is no longer just lived, it is measured. And behind this daily routine, something much larger is forming. Artificial intelligence systems are learning how the human body changes over time. Health platforms are predicting risks before symptoms appear. Wearable devices are constantly collecting data, not just for today, but for the future version of you. And all of this connects to one growing idea. If we can understand the body completely, maybe we can slow its decline. This is no longer science fiction, it is becoming infrastructure. What began as curiosity has now become one of the most powerful industries in the world. Biotechnology companies are researching how to repair cells at the core level. Longevity startups are built around extending healthy lifespan rather than just treating diseases. Entire sectors are focused not on curing illness after it happens, but preventing aging itself from creating the conditions for illness. And this changes everything. Because when something becomes an industry, it becomes competition, investment, acceleration. And now, aging is no longer just a biological concept. It is an economic frontier. A race between companies, countries, and technologies trying to answer one question faster than anyone else. How far can human life be extended? But every advancement in human history carries an uncomfortable shadow. If life extension becomes possible, it will not be distributed equally. At least not at first. It always starts with access. And access always starts with inequality. So the question is no longer only scientific, it becomes social, ethical, structural. If one group of people can slow aging while another cannot, the time itself becomes uneven. Life becomes stratified, not just by wealth or opportunity, but by duration. And that possibility creates a tension that science alone cannot resolve. Because extending life is one thing, but deciding who gets that extension is something entirely different. Even if it feels distant, the shift is already inside daily life. The way you sleep is tracked, the way you eat is analyzed, the way you move is recorded. Health is no longer just something you experience. It is something you optimize. Without realizing it, people are already adapting their lives to match the logic of longevity science. Not because they were told to, but because the tools are already everywhere. And slowly the idea of healthy living is blending into something deeper. Not just living well, but living longer. Imagine a future where aging slows significantly, where 80 feels like 50, where 100 is not rare, but expected. A world where people stay active, aware, and functional far longer than any generation before them. It feels like victory over biology, a quiet triumph of science, but there is another version of that same future. One where life extension is expensive, selective, and controlled, where some people gain decades of extra time while others remain in traditional lifespans, where inequality is no longer just financial but biological. Two versions of humanity, same planet, different timelines. So the deeper question is not whether aging can be controlled, it is what happens to human meaning when time itself becomes flexible. Because everything we value, urgency, growth, ambition, even relationships, is shaped by the fact the time is limited. If that limit changes, do we change with it? Or do we lose something we didn't realize was essential? Maybe aging was never just decay. Maybe it was the structure that gave life its shape. So now we return to where we started. A simple truth that once felt obvious. You're aging, and life eventually ends. But after everything we explored, the truth doesn't feel as simple anymore. Because somewhere between science, technology, and human ambition, aging stopped being just something we accept and started becoming something we observe, measure, and challenge. And once you see that shift, it's hard to unsee it. But maybe the most important part of this entire story is not whether we can defeat aging, it's what happens to us mentally when we believe we can. Because every time humanity gains control over something once considered uncontrollable, it doesn't just change life, it changes how we define life. So the question is no longer just about biology, it's about meaning. If time becomes flexible, if aging slows, if life stretches further than before, what exactly are we trying to preserve? And who do we become in the process? If this video made you think differently, even for a moment, take a second to like this video, share it with someone who questions the world the way you do, and subscribe to HistoFy. Because here, we don't just tell stories, we explore the systems, ideas, and changes that quietly reshape human reality. And maybe next time you think about aging, it won't feel like something far away anymore. It will feel like something that is already changing.